Hello everyone and welcome back to the Car Profiles, where if you haven't already guessed, we're looking at the Peugeot RCZ Gr.3 car. Now if you're not subscribed already, please do subscribe to the channel. We do get these out every single week, most weeks. Obviously this week's been a bit different of course because we had a BOP update. So I've actually done this car profile twice and I'll explain a bit more as we go into the video. This car has an inline-4 turbocharged engine. Of course, it's based on the RCZ. However, unlike the real car, this is an MR layout with 6 gears. The current BOP and the new BOP is 520 brake horsepower and 1,320 kilograms in weight. It's had 5 kilograms added to it. I'd say I've done a test before the update and after the update, so it's a bit frustrating that this car got updated, but we'll see why as we go into the test. Now, I love this car. If you don't know this already, this is one of my favorite cars in Gran Turismo. It really is. It's one of the cars I went to straight away in terms of the Manufacturers' Championship and tried to qualify Peugeot. It does have a long wheelbase there. It does allow some good stability. And again, it's just an awesome looking car, this. A real good take of a GT3 car in a car which isn't a GT3. Let's jump into the car profiles then. Let's get on with the test. And first up is Laguna Seca. Now, you're probably going, Tidge, weren't we facing the Genesis here? Because it's not appeared yet, but we are facing the Porsche. And the reason for that is the Genesis has been updated as well. So I'm going to say the test time of the Genesis is now invalid. So we're racing against the next fastest car, which is the Porsche 911 RSR. 21.7 is what we're looking for as we go through test 1. With 21.8 there, 1/10 down. Test 1 wasn't too bad in this car. But as we continue on towards this left-hander, it's where it starts to unfold with this car, where the problems really do exist. So going through here, not a problem. It does understeer a little bit on this corner, but not majorly. It's here where there are issues. It really just suffers with some weird weight transition as you go through the car. You can see it again there. As I go through the corner, it just shifts and can't really handle itself as it goes through undulations in this car. Speaking of undulations, the corkscrew, now even better actually with the additional weight. I will explain that a bit later on, but it was more stable there than previous. We are 4/10 down on the Porsche 911 though, as we go through that left-hander and head into the right. Again, this corner with its camber obviously makes the car really feel a bit weird, to be honest with you. It does transition a bit bizarrely. Head towards the last corner. This is where the car is very nice indeed. On exit, you can just accelerate down here. No real problems whatsoever. We're going to head towards the line then. What kind of lap time is this going to be? Of course, this is the fastest lap, a 121.571. 3/10 down on the Porsche 911. But what is it in terms of optimums? Because remember, that is what we look at in these car profiles, the optimum times. And we're going to give you something interesting now. Now, in terms of leaderboard at the moment, at the top, an old AMG GT3, that's been changed there. The Genesis has been changed. You can see that there. The AMG GT3, a weird one there. You see the old Peugeot RCZ then, that was P9. And the new one then, P16. It lost 1/10 of a second compared to its predecessor. So it shows you what 5 kilograms of weight actually does there in terms of the car, okay? It really interesting. It did lose that, and it did feel it in terms of the handling of the car. The weight felt a bit weird. It did feel a bit more stable on exit, so in terms of accelerating. So very interesting indeed, as we're going to jump to the next car profile test then, which is of course the medium speed test, and that is at Suzuka. Not all cars got updated, so we will be retesting those cars that we have been updated. Don't you worry. We'll be doing a new car plus an old one, an old test, and just update it as we go, just to keep that in mind. Now, of course, here, the Toyota Supra used to have the record, but that has also been updated. So we go to the next fastest car, which again is the Porsche 911. That hasn't been updated, folks. That car is pretty rapid now in the grand scheme of it. Now, going through sector 1 then, we're nearly 2/10 down on that Porsche 911. And it did struggle a little bit in parts of the S's, but third gear was very stable for it. Now, Tidgney 1 doesn't like mounting it too much this curve, but if you mount it a little bit, it was absolutely fine. Tidgney 2, oh my word, this car is so stable on exit. Look at it there, just absolutely flies through there. Not a problem, and quite a fast sector 2 there, but we still do drop a little bit of time to the Porsche 911 then. Now, I've always said with this car, actually, it's basically a Porsche 911, this RCZ. It really is. It's very similar. So in my opinion, and how it used to be in the very first part of GT Sport, identical times, very similar times, very similar feeling, because they are essentially very similar. But I'm going to head up towards Spoon then. Coming into here, you are going to suffer a little bit of understeer in this RCZ. So we do have to brake a little bit earlier there, trying to get it rotated. A short shift to third gear. No real need to be honest, though, as we continue on out of here then. Now, you are going to notice I'm on lap 3. Now, because I've done the test already, getting up to speed was very quick here this time. And obviously, it gives it a bit of an advantage. So if it is slower than its predecessor. It's slower, but with an advantage as well. As we go through there, then 3 tenths down on the Porsche and Liver. Quite good 130R, to be honest with you, as we head towards the Casio Triangle. Again, stability is very key in this car on exits. And as we exit here, not really too much issues there. A little bit of a wiggle, nothing major as we head towards the line. And are we going to get even close to this Peugeot, not Peugeot, the Porsche 911 in the Peugeot? There we go. So it stays about the same, 3.5 tenths down. But again, we are going to look at Optimums. And we'll see how it compares against its predecessor once again in version 1.40. And we can see there P7, the Peugeot RCZ got in its pre-form. You know, before we had this BOP update, P7. It's not on there now, you can see that. And that lap, actually, the 59.0, was a fantastic lap in the car. We're 2 tenths down then, down in P14 in the current car, which is interesting, to be honest with you, because I suspect this weight has cost it 2 tenths of a second at each of the circuits. And I'm sort of giving away Bathurst potentially, but we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I reckon this plus 5 kilograms of weight has cost it 2 tenths of a second. It's given it some benefits, that's for sure, but it's also cost it in handling as well. Let's jump to the next circuit then, which is Bathurst, of course. I did just mention that just before. And this is the high speed test. Now, I was tempted to go to Daytona with the switch of the BOP update, but not all cars were updated. So I'm carrying on with Bathurst for now as we continue on through there. Turn 1, probably one of the most stable turn 1s compared to a lot of cars in this one. And we are facing the Mazda because the Genesis has been updated where that Mazda has not. So we are racing this Mazda once again then. And we are up, of course, because that sector 1 is quite slow in that Mazda with a 19.1 there, sector 1. Not too shabby at all, really. As we go through this right-hander, this car does struggle a bit on exit in terms of understeer. Doesn't happen on this lap. Again, lap number 3. Up to speed very quickly just due to the fact we've already done a car profile test with this as we go into the left-hander. On exit, the weight transition a bit more extreme there. I feel like 5 kilograms did have an impact on that part. It made the car a bit light. And coming up here, it felt like it had more understeer. It really, really did. And that could be due to the weight, of course, as we go into here. This corner was atrocious in this car. Atrocious before the patch and after as well. Let's go into this left-hander then, looking to get around, just not turning as much. There is more understeer there. It's definitely there now as we start to go down the mountain then. 4 tenths down on the Mazda then as we go into the left there. Oh, a little bit of a wiggle and a hit on the barrier. So that's going to cost us quite a bit of time. But of course, this is why we look at optimum times, not just fastest laps, because mistakes like that can happen. You can very easily get some good sectors on different laps. So we put them together, gives us our theoretical best and gives us our overall idea of how the car handles itself. So we are going to be down on the time here on this 3rd lap at Bathurst. Of course, this is the fastest one I did, so you can see where the session went there. And we are 1 second down, 1 second down on that Mazda. We're not going to catch this up then. Going to the chase then, of course. So we do a speed trap there. It just got into the 170. I can tell you before the patch, it was very much in the 170s. I thought it was going to hit 171. Didn't quite do it pre-patch. And I do have all that footage, by the way, just for information. I store all the footage of all these tests. So I'll store the old ones, do the new ones, of course. The new ones won't get their own dedicated video, but I will tell you in each video where it has been updated as appropriate. So we're going to head towards the line then. This is a 202.8, 1 second down on that Mazda. But again, we look at Optimums. As you can see down there, it's 202.5. We'll see where that actually ends up by the end of the session because we had many more laps to do. Let's have a look at the overall leaderboard then. So the Genesis at the top, of course, that has been nerfed completely there. Minus 6 horsepower, minus 3 kilograms. So maybe it just sorts itself out. I'm not too sure. But that's sticking at a 201.4 at the moment. So they're both on here then. So you can see a 202 dead then for the predecessor, 202.2 for the current one. So it shows again that 2 tenths of a second. I do feel that's about right. Again, it just understeers a bit more. I feel like with the weight, it's actually giving it more grip over the rear, and that allows more stability on exits. But mid-corner, when you start to accelerate, you just want that tiny bit of rotation, and I feel it's lost that, and that's what's forcing the understeer a little bit in this car. Bit weird that they nerfed this car in the first place, to be honest with you. I'm very confused by that, but I'll talk about that again at the end of this video. So the fuel saving test, and this is where it gets really interesting, folks, because of course the fuel and tyre test, it will tell us how the car handled before and after. So you get to see how the weight really did impact this car now. So we're going to head towards the 2,000 meter mark. Of course, automatic, fuel map 1 and fuel map 3, because if you're on automatic, it's the only way to fuel save. Harsh shift is the better way to save fuel, and the harsh shift plus fuel map 3 is the ultimate way to save fuel. That's the reasons why we have these. First cross line then, of course, is fuel map 1. So you do rev this car, of course. You can see that in the top left-hand side. But the half shift isn't that far behind. Again, you can see that in the top right-hand side. That reaches the line next there. So only a few tenths off there, the fuel map 1. Down at the bottom left is where it's going to finish next in terms of fuel map 3. Again, we do have to look at the fuel storage, of course, because as we get towards that line, it was slower, but didn't save as much fuel either. It just shows you how bad fuel map actually is. And in the bottom right-hand side, 71% fuel at the moment. Does it drop to 70? That is the question in terms of the test. No, it doesn't as we cross the line. Remember, it has to be on the line. If it's not on the line, I go to the very next frame to capture that time. Just to keep that in mind in terms of how I log the test here then. So, lots of leaderboards for this one. I apologize for how some of the graphics will look here because you can't see some of the stuff, but the Ford at the top has been changed, so that'll be something we will have to look at. But critically, the Peugeot RCZ not in that top 10. 3 cars are in that. The Jaguar F-Type has had a big buff. Big buff there, so I can't wait to test that. But in terms of the fuel usage, it's nearly identical. The weight's only added a tiny bit of time on in terms of the time to get to that line, which is very interesting indeed. So it really has had very minimal impact in terms of that speed then. The weight, the power to weight ratio, not really changing much for the Peugeot RCZ. So it really hasn't had an impact. So that turbocharged engine really working well with that tiny bit of weight. So very little impact there. We're going to have a look at this frame then. So this test, should I say, the half shift in terms of the best way to save fuel, of course, as it's not even in the top 20 here, ladies and gentlemen. Obviously, it was in the top 20 on the previous test, so it shows you it does suffer with a harsh shift. You do have to rev this to really get the best out of it. Same fuel level again, very similar time. It's 2 frames off this time, I can tell you that much. So you can see it does drop a little bit more there. The Aston Martin DPR9 getting right in the middle with its time. So then we go to fuel map 3 in automatic. So obviously, if you race in automatic, it's the only way to fuel save, of course. So you can see what's good cars and what isn't good cars again. So we go to page 2. So the predecessor there sits there, 25.9, does get under the 26 marker. Don't see the current version though. And what are we going to see when we do get to the current version? Oh, it does get under the 26 as well. So again, 2 frames off, not too shabby at all. In fact, it's 6 really where the Porsche is, but the Porsche does save a bit more fuel there. So the Porsche potentially not revving as much with that automatic. I'm not too sure. This is the ultimate fuel saving though. So if you are trying to save fuel to get to the end of the race, this is where your times are. And let's have a look at this one then. So again, we don't see the Peugeot RCZ in that top 10. We do see its predecessor in P20. So it has dropped down the leaderboards as we've gone through these tests then. So the predecessor is actually behind the Porsche 911. Again, I always said these cars are similar, but wow, look at that. Big difference and drops down to P25. It's very much with everybody else there. Big old tie there with a lot of positions with this car then. Sitting P25, very near the bottom in the grand scheme of it then. So, of course, as I go forward, the old Peugeot RCZ will disappear from the leaderboards. I will have a separate leaderboard somewhere with all the times from all the bops ever done at some point. So just keep that in mind. That's going to happen. We go to the oval length for the tyre wear test. Now, I've always said in GT Sport, weight was a predominant factor with tyre wear. Well, we're about to see what plus 5 kilograms does in terms of tyre wear, because this is the exact same test. We just go around, very minimal human input. We're just accelerating around the Daytona tri-oval here, and once the first tyre runs out of tyre wear, we then have our how long did the tyre last just going round the oval, which is, you know, a nice little test that we do here. We get towards the end now then. We've just started lap number 3 here. There we go. It just finishes now. So we had that 9.345 seconds to the 52.5 seconds and the 49.5 seconds there. Obviously, we use exact seconds in the spreadsheet that I've got because we all love a good spreadsheet. This is the more human test then. So we've got braking, accelerating, can oversteer here, and all sorts can happen, of course. And again, we're just doing laps here until we run out of tyres. We go to lap number 5 here then as we head up the hill. That left rear tyre really going down now. Lap 5 is normally the average in terms of this tyre test. It really is, as we just finished there just before we get a bit further on. A bit further on is when everyone normally gets to the next corner, but we've just finished prior to that. Again, we add up all 4 laps plus this 5th lap there with the 23 seconds, and that gives us an overall time. So lots to really take in here now. Let's have a look at the tyre test on the oval. This is really where we get to see how the BOP has impacted the tyre wear just in terms of weight. So that's what I'm really interested in seeing then. So it's not in the top 10 there. We go to, oh, okay, so 151.7 there for the predecessor. So the tyres did last longer on its predecessor. Very interesting indeed as we wait to go to the next screen then. So half a second more of tyre wear life. Remember, we just got a straight line here. Braking does impact it. A lot's impact it. So the weight did add some tyre wear. It really did add some tyre wear in terms of going in a straight line. But we go to a circuit now. So this is a circuit test. This is where there's more human interaction, should I say. You see a lot of the old ones in that top 10 there, and they've all been changed, so lots to look into that one. Doesn't even make the top 20 then, so it is impacted by human interaction as we wait to see it in the final 10 then. And critically, when we're going to get to this final 10, you'll notice the new one actually beats the old one. Two reasons for this, I will say. More weight over the rear actually means we've got better traction on exits, and that actually helps the tyre wear. Lasted 3.5 seconds longer there, and I did feel it during the test. It really didn't spin its wheels as much. It's very much there, so it does help the tyre wear in a circuit environment. Very interesting indeed. So kind of a buff there for the Peugeot RCZ in terms of that. Top speed wise, it's exactly the same, identical. I will say the predecessor was a bit quicker actually. If I was in kilometers an hour, I know people keep saying it, but I can't save the replay, so I can't check. It is up miles an hour. That's what I use in terms of these tests. But it's 170, so it's a bang average essentially in terms of the speed trap there. Then we're going to go to the overall summary then. Where does it sit? So the old car was 22.5. It was literally in between the Metas and the mid-pack. It really was up there, the old one. Really nice car to drive. Did have its still issues with weight transfer. But now, with that nerf, you know, it's gone down. So it's lost 0.4 of a second there in terms of the overall across the 3 tracks. It's now top of the mid-pack. So they've really pushed it into that mid-pack category to make sure it stays there. Again, I find it really weird they've nerfed this car. I really do, because yes, it's a strong mid car for sure, because it was there, but nerfing it that bit more was a little bit weird to me, if I do say so myself. I didn't feel like it needed a nerf. I was a bit disappointed it got nerfed. There was some chat in the feedback group about the RCZ being a bit dodgy at Laguna Seca, and I can definitely see that with the undulations and there. Now, I am speaking a bit longer than normal at the end of this car profile because I do want to explain the test going forward, just to clarify. I will be retesting the cars that did get changed. So I can't remember exactly how many cars that have been changed. I do have a spreadsheet of it somewhere. Of course, I have a spreadsheet. So we have 7 cars that I need to retest. So it'll be over the next 7 weeks. So we'll have a new car, of course, then plus an old car that we do need to retest. I'll update each and every video. Probably going to be the Genesis next, because obviously everyone's very much interested in that car, because it did absolutely dominate the previous car profiles. So keep that in mind. In terms of the bot changes, it was really interesting with the RCZ. The Jaguar has been buffed. That is an interesting one. The Audi R8 has been buffed as well. That had some weight knocked off it. Probably needed that. Hopefully that makes it better in braking zones and rotation, of course. Might give it a bit more top speed as well in there. That 4GT change in, that's a big interesting one, because that was top speed dominant, wasn't it? So we'll definitely see how that handles itself as well going forward. Some interesting changes there for sure. Of course, there are some cars I hadn't tested already that have been changed, so we'll only see them in their new form. Now, if you did enjoy this video, do give it a like, and please do subscribe to the channel. I appreciate all the support with these videos. They do take a long time to make. There's a lot of effort that goes into it. You can see all the graphics that happen with this, and I will keep going forward testing these cars, and hopefully it will help PD if they do watch these videos. They do watch some of my videos, but if they do watch these, it will be a benefit to them as well. Again, big thank you for watching a previous car profile there to check out, or the Beat the Meta where I did this car. And if you want to see a different car tested, do let me know in the comments. Thank you once again for watching, and I hope to see you in another video. I'll live stream again very soon.